Hello everyone, it's Krish again. I hope all of you guys are safe and doing well, and I know most of you are work from home. And yeah, of course, if you're watching this video months and years after later, you it doesn't make any sense. But I record this video during the time we have a corona outbreak. First, I wish all of you have a healthy, good life and stay safe. Okay, so last video we discussed about how what is the Ansible and how we can install Ansible, right? So I just demonstrated how install Ansible on a CentOS based Linux version, but you can go through documentation and figure out a way how you can install Ansible on your dedicated version operating system. So if we little recap what we are going to do with Ansible. So Ansible is the automation framework where you can manage multiple hundreds of thousands of nodes and at one time create users, create files, install application, do the packages, do the network calls, anything what you want you can do from a single nodes and on a, operate on a remote node. Its specialty is agentless. You don't have to install any agent. So in this video, I'm going to show you how we can configure those, how we can configure Ansible Master into talk to their nodes. Keep in mind here, when we do this, we have three different ways. I mean, more than three ways, right? You have multiple ways to do this, but I'm going to demonstrate you three different ways how you can connect Ansible Master into the nodes, right? So you can find different ways, but I'm going to use three different ways. Why I'm going to demonstrate three different ways? Because how you connect is completely depend on what your infrastructure is. For example, if you are using AWS based EC2 instances, you may trying to connect with the PEM file, right? So certificate, or else you may connect with SSH username password, right? But you need to understand, when we need to automate things, there is no one to enter the password, right? You may probably need to run these jobs frequently automatically through Jenkins or something. So in that case, you don't have anyone to execute these playbooks, right? So there is no one to give the password, right? So it has to configure in a way you can seamlessly talk to its node. First way, I'm going to demonstrate how you can add in the EC2 instances, how you can add a certificate to your master node, so then that master node can use that certificate to talk to its nodes. But this has a limitation, because let's say you have a 100 different nodes, right? So 10 nodes are databases, 10 nodes are web servers, and other maybe 50 nodes are application servers, right? So you may have three different certificates to talk to each servers, right? You may not use it for security reasons. You may not use the same certificate to all those nodes, right? In such case, you cannot use this technique. Why? Because this is like kind of a fixed certificate to talk to each node. I mean, you can use this method, but that's not very easy, right? So first way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to my Ansible Master, right? So you can see here, to connect to this Ansible Master, I need a certificate, right? So also to these two Ansible clients and to these other nodes, we can use the same certificate to connect, right? So that's how I created these instances. I have altogether three servers, three EC2 instances. One is the Ansible Master and other two are nodes, right? So this is the Ansible Master. We installed Ansible in the last video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy my certificate into this Ansible Master, right? So my certificate is currently in my local machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that. I'm going to SCP. I'm going to SCP that certificate into this machine's home EC2 user, right? So I'm going to copy this certificate PEM file from my local into a remote machine. Certificate copied. So now I'm going to log back there, and if you check this, so you will have this certificate here, right? So I'm going to talk about Ansible ad hoc commands in the next video, but till that I'm going to use one. Don't worry about this command, right? But I'm going to explain this command and how to build your command in the next video, right? So I'm going to I'm going to use one command to check this configuration, right? So what I'm going to do is, so as I said last video, I'm not going to use the etc Ansible directory, because then you will feel you need that directory to run the Ansible. You don't need that, right? So in the home directory, I'm going to create a directory called Ansible, right? This is my own directory, so I'm going to change that, right? So here I'm going to create a file called hosts, right? So I'm going to use, since we didn't discuss about the inventory and anything, so I'm going to use this this file as just IP addresses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these IP addresses and add those here. Right, so this is the IP address 1, and this is my second IP address. Okay, so that's it. Right, so if you check this file, so you can see it just have two different IP addresses, right? Again, I'm not using directory which Ansible installation created in etc host, etc Ansible, because then you will think if you don't have that directory you cannot work with Ansible. So that's why I created my own directory, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a command Ansible, right? All, don't worry about this command at all. I'm going to show this command to you, I mean explain this command in the next video. So minus I means inventory. So what are the inventory files I'm going to use? I need to all mean in simple, I need to run this command on all the nodes in that inventory file. So I'm going to use the module called ping, right? So we discussed what's the module in the last video. So you will see here it just failed it, right? So if you run again, right, so if you run this command again, it just failed. Why it failed? Because these two nodes are configured to use SSH certificate to communicate, right? Those are not password enabled. So my Ansible does not know which certificate to pass. It doesn't pass any certificate, so that's why it's not working, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to configure SSH agent is bash, right? And I'm going to add the file here, SSH add, so my certificate PEM file, right? So my PEM file is outside this directory. Okay, so now it's added, identity added. Okay, so now I'm going to execute the same command, Ansible all minus I host and minus m ping, right? So it's the same command I executed last time. So now you can see it's execute on both server and it says communication is successful my both Ansible node. So don't worry about the commands or this output. I'm going to explain this very in detail in the next video. So don't worry about this. But what this simply says, my Ansible host can communicate to Ansible manager can communicate with both nodes, right? So this is the first way to communicate, first way to configure the Ansible. How we do that? We take a certificate and we configure SSH agent and we add certificate to SSH. So SSH can, when the Ansible wants to connect to these nodes, SSH can use that, right? So this is the first way to do it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to a different node. So different, no, this is empty. This has nothing inside that. So what I'm going to do is, so this is my other Ansible manager, second Ansible manager. So I'm going to install Ansible very quickly to that. So now it has installed Ansible, right? So we can see Ansible version, right? So it has Ansible installed, right? So now what I'm going to do is as last time I'm going to create a directory here. Again, I'm not going to use the same directory. So Ansible, right? So I'm going to go to Ansible and I'm going to create a file called host. Okay, so now if I use the same command again, obviously this is going to fail. Right, because this does not know how to communicate, right? So I'm going to show you the second way where how you can have your own SSH keys to communicate to Ansible nodes, right? So you can do this way, right? You can generate a key set first. You can generate key using SSH keygen. So it will generate a key for you. Right, so now we have a key. So if you check this, so you will see these two keys are generated from that command. So now what we can do is, so we can copy these keys into those nodes, right, manually. So you can do this in this way. So I'm going to get my certificate here, right? So I'm going to get my certificate to this machine as well, because to connect to that server I need the certificate. So SCP, I'm going to get this certificate to my this machine home EC2. So now I'm going to connect it back. So now I connected it back. So now we can have we will have this file here. Yes, we have that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy my generated keys into my host. So let's get the first our host name. So Ansible host file contains my IP addresses, right? So so let's get all those IP addresses. So I'm going to copy this manually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cat my SSH stores, then id rsa.pub file, and then I want to connect using SSH to EC2 user at this first IP, and then I want to cat there and append. Now I need to, whatever the output comes here, I need to append this to authorized host file, authorized keys file, right? So how I'm going to do this, SSH authorized keys, right? So when I execute this command, it goes there, right? So now I need to do the same thing into the next IP addresses, which is 81.12. So now I added both keys, right? So let me to explain how this works very simple way. This is a machine A want to connect to machine B, right? So now machine A generate public and private keys, right, and to connect to machine B. So now machine A trying to access the machine B has these keys authorized already. So that's why we copy machine A's public key into machine B's authorized key file, right? Machine A's public key has to be in the machine B's authorized keys file. So that's what we did. So now technically we should be able to connect to these machines, both of these machines, without any keys, right? So let's try SSH EC2 user at first IP address. Yeah, I connected that. So now this one should be able to connect to second IP address. Yes, I can connect to both using without any keys. Now I should be able to run that command without any problem. So minus Ansible all minus I Ansible host and minus m ping. Yeah, now both servers work. Both nodes can be connected, can communicate to those both nodes. So that means the second way you can have your own keys and send those keys into your server, right? So there is a other way you can do this, the same thing, your own key. You can use something called you can copy the keys, right? So that's the third way. This is how I'm going to work, right? And not the third way, it's kind of a different ways you can copy these keys, right? So what you can do is, but to do that, your target machine should able to connect use SSH using a password, right? If your target machine is connecting using certificate, this is not easy to do. If you want to do this way, if you want to do in a way that I'm going to demonstrate now, your target machine has to enable the SSH based on a password, right? So what I'm going to do is, I have two different nodes which configured to access the SSH connection based on a password. So I'm going to modify my Ansible inventory to those IP addresses. So I'm going to delete these two IP addresses. So now let's try that to make sure it can be connected using password. EC2 user at this IP address. It asking password. Yeah, I can connect to that using password, right? So how we can do this? Now if I try Ansible again, it won't work because now I have two different machines. Ansible all -i host -m ping. So now again it won't work. Why? Because now I have two different machine, right? So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use SSH-copy-id command, right? Right, I'm going to use SSH-copy-id to this IP address, right? So if you want, you can pass what is your key here, right? If not, you can just use this one, and yes, right? Right, so now I have only one key in SSH directory, so it added to there, right? So I'm going to do the same thing into my second node 226. Okay, so now I copied the IDs, right? So I'm going to run this and my last fail command again. Now you can see both success, right? So this kind of a method, second type, right? So you can either copy your certificates manually using cat, or else you can use the copy ID command. But if you want to use the copy ID command, make sure your target nodes should enable SSH based on the password, right? Not based on certificate. If your target nodes are based on certificate, then you can use the previous way I explained, copy your public key manually to their authorized keys. Okay, so let's go for type 3. So I'm going to connect to different nodes now. I'm going to quickly install Ansible for this as well. It has Ansible installed, right? So as usual, I'm going to create a directory here. Okay, so I'm going to copy my ID file to this one. Okay, so now I connected to here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to add two different nodes to this configuration host. So let's say go to Ansible directory, vim host file. Okay, so now I configured two different nodes. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to show you a really nice thing here, right? So if I come back here, I have this file. Okay, so so what I'm going to show you here, how you can use multiple certificates to connect to different nodes, right? For example, in here I'm going to do a little bit different this time. This time I'm going to configure these servers into two different categories, right? For example, this is my, I'm going to explain this inventory format, but for now you can understand this way. So this is my DB server and this is my web server, right? So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell web var, right? So what does that mean? Variables for this web server group, right? Variable for this web server group, right? For this category, I am going to use a one property called Ansible SSH private key file, and I am going to give a file name here, right? So ideally I should copy this to secure location, right? I'm not going to demonstrate that. Ideally I had to copy this to my SSH to somewhere, right? I'm just going to keep it here for now, right? Home EC2 user, right? And what was the certificate file? This one. Okay. So I'm going to pass this as a parameter into my inventory file, right? Pass as a parameter into the inventory. So if we check the inventories in this time, it will be different than last time, right? So you can see it's grouped and also it has a certificate. So now I'm going to, but keep in mind the certificate is valid technically only for web group, right? So DB group doesn't valid. So we'll see how this behave. Ansible all -i host and -m ping. I'm going to check the connection, right? So it connects successfully to one server, which is 147, which is a web group, totally fine, but looks like it doesn't communicate with the other. So let's try again, right? So it's going to communicate with the one, it doesn't communicate with the other. Keep in mind, it communicate with the 147 IP, right? It communicate with the 147 IP. So I'm going to change this time, and here instead of the web, I'm going to pose as a DB, right? I'm going to pose as a DB. So now if I try my command, Ansible all I host -m ping, so this time it will work only for 156, right? Because 147 is failed. Why? Because we didn't give it for 147, right? So if you check a host file, we only configured to DB server, right? So this certificate does not involve with the web server, that's why it cannot connect. So now if I configure this with special parameter, I'm going to tell here all, right? So I'm going to tell here all, okay? So now if I execute my command, so you will see, so both servers work properly along with this command, right? So both servers work along with this command. So that's a third way we can configure Ansible host, Ansible manager to communicate with the nodes, right? So these each technique, each ways belongs to different scenarios, different use cases, because if this is the most flexible way, if you have a multiple, if you have hundreds and thousands of nodes, but each groups use a different certificate, so this is the ideal way, because based on your group, you can give your commands, right? So in the next video, I'm going to talk about how to write an inventory, how to explain this inventory file format, and also something called ad hoc command. Okay, so I hope you will practice these things until we meet in the next video. I'm going to promise I'm going to upload very soon. So share this video, like, comment, and also subscribe to my channel so you can get this type of videos as well as some different type of videos which will be interesting. And make sure you share this video with your friends, so then we can let other people also, other colleagues also, to learn about these technologies and this stuff, right? So until we meet again, stay safe, stay healthy, and take care.